Imagine a courtroom on a Tuesday morning. Ordinary, predictable, until one moment turns the air electric. The wooden benches creaked as people shifted, waiting their turn. Sunlight spilled through tall windows, cutting lines of gold across the worn floor. Somewhere, a guard's coffee hissed as it cooled. Judge Frank Caprio entered quietly, nodding to the clerk, his warmth disarming even the most nervous defendants. But this case was different from the start. A teenager, 17, maybe 18, stepped forward. Hoodie pulled up, baseball cap turned backward. One hand in his pocket, the other clutching a phone like a shield. The clerk called, "Case of Alex Klein." The boy didn't move. Caprio's voice broke the silence, gentle but firm. "Good morning, young man. Are you Alex Klein?" Alex smirked. "Guess so, if it matters." The judge raised an eyebrow. "It doesn't matter to me, but it might to you." A few quiet laughs rippled through the room. Alex rolled his eyes, slouching deeper into his chair. His offense, 47 miles per hour in a 25 zone, right outside a school. Caprio flipped through the report. "You were speeding in a school zone, Mr. Klein. That's not just a fine, that's a risk." Alex shrugged. "Look, I was late. Nobody got hurt. What's the problem?" "The problem," Caprio said, still calm, "is that laws exist to stop things before they happen." Alex smirked again. "Laws are for old people afraid of living." The room froze. A whisper rolled through the back rows, a sharp intake of breath. A few murmured, "Did he really just say that?" Caprio didn't flinch. His expression didn't change. "Old people, you say?" he asked, tilting his head. "Yeah," Alex said. "People who sit around pretending to help but don't actually do anything. Like you." A gasp swept the courtroom. Even the guards straightened. Someone muttered, "Oh, he's done." But Caprio didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten or scold. He simply folded his hands and leaned back in his chair. "Son," he said quietly, "I usually decide who deserves punishment. But today, I'm wondering who really needs to learn something here." The silence that followed felt heavier than anger. Even Alex shifted in his seat, uncertain. Caprio's tone was almost too calm, the way a storm sounds before it breaks. The judge spoke again, slower now, his words deliberate. "You think rules are for people weaker than you. You think respect is a joke. But you might be surprised what life does to young men who believe that." Alex rolled his eyes again, but this time his confidence faltered. His fingers tightened around his phone. Caprio's gaze softened slightly. "You're not the first teenager to sit there thinking the world owes you a pass. But every man who stood here before you has learned the same thing. The world doesn't give passes. It gives lessons." He paused, letting the words hang in the air like a verdict. Then, almost conversationally, "So, Mr. Klein, before I decide what happens next, tell me, do you even know why you're here?" Alex gave a small, defiant smile. "To pay some stupid ticket?" Caprio smiled back, but it wasn't friendly. "No," he said softly. "You're here because sometimes fate puts us in front of a mirror, and it wants us to look long enough to see who we're becoming." A hush swept the room. For a moment, even the boy didn't have an answer. The judge set his file down, folded his hands again, and said quietly, "Let's start from the beginning. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel." Caprio didn't reach for the statute book. He folded his hands and watched the boy as if the file were written on his face. "Alex," he said, "humor me. Tell me what you think matters about you. Not the citation. You." The kid shrugged, jaw set. "North Providence. Small apartment. Mom works nights and mornings. No dad. I get myself to school. I get myself everywhere. I don't need a sermon." A few heads turned. Caprio's voice stayed level. "Self-sufficient, then?" "Yeah," Alex said, eyes flicking to the phone he finally placed face down. "I make my own calls. And the bills that follow those calls." Caprio asked, "Do you make those too?" Silence. The boy's cheek twitched. "My mom handles it." "So you don't do it all alone," the judge said, not unkindly. "You choose. She pays." The line found its mark. Alex's bravado faltered. "You don't know what it's like," he fired back, too fast. "You sit up there like life just opens doors for you." Something small shifted in the judge's eyes, more memory than anger. "You're sure you know how my doors opened?" Alex blinked. The room listened. Caprio let the quiet breathe before he continued. "You say you're late, you speed, no one is hurt, end of story. But there's always a beginning you don't tell. What did your morning look like? The real one. The boy's shoulders dropped a fraction. Alarm at 5. Bus cards empty. Mom's uniform still wet on the hanger. I took her car because she was asleep on the couch. I figured I could make it back before she woke up. I didn't. And the school zone? I thought I could shave a minute, he muttered. Everybody does it. Everybody. Caprio repeated softly, as if testing the word's weight. Everybody does not carry your mother's rent in their rearview mirror. Alex stared at the floor. The court's ordinary noises, paper, shoes, the faint hum of the vents, seemed to retreat. You told me a moment ago I pretend to help, the judge said. What would helping you look like? The kid swallowed. Not lecturing me. I'm 20 minutes older than your worst lecture, Caprio said, almost smiling. I'm asking a question. Alex dragged a hand across his cap brim. I don't know. People back off. Stop treating me like I'm a problem to fix. And if the problem isn't you, Caprio said, but the story you're telling yourself about who you have to be? Alex frowned, uncertain. When I was your age, the judge added, voice low, there were nights I mopped a hallway and ate dinner from a paper bag. I didn't have a car to borrow. I had a floor to finish before the bus quit running. No one handed me a bench. I earned a chair one night at a time. The boy glanced up, searching his face for mockery and finding none. You don't need pity, Caprio said. You need a better question. Not how fast can I get away with this, but who pays when I don't slow down? He tapped the citation with one finger, a gentle metronome. Right now the answer is your mother. Alex's mouth opened, then closed. A thin defiance still clung to him, but it had lost its footing. Caprio eased back. We can talk about penalties. We will. But if we don't talk about the morning that made your choice, you'll leave here with a receipt and nothing learned. The boy nodded once, almost imperceptibly. Good, the judge said, softer now. Because I don't intend to send you out as you came in. Caprio turned a page in the file, scanning something the clerk had underlined in red. His brow furrowed, not from irritation, but recognition. Alex, he said evenly, this isn't your first citation. There's one more from 2 months ago. Same car, same street, but unpaid. The boy tensed, eyes narrowing. So what? You gonna double it? The judge didn't answer. He tapped the paper lightly. That ticket was issued on Veterans Day. Says here you left school before noon. Why? The question landed like a dart. Alex's jaw tightened. I just didn't feel like being there. That's not much of an answer, Caprio said. I don't owe you one. No, the judge replied quietly. You owe it to yourself. The boy stared at the floor, arms folded. A long pause stretched between them. Finally he muttered. They had some assembly that day. For the veterans. The whole gym was covered in flags and names. And you didn't want to be there, Caprio said. Alex's voice was thin now. Everyone kept asking about my dad. Teachers, friends. Wasn't your father a Marine? Are you going to speak in the ceremony? They don't get it. He's not a story. He's gone. The air in the room shifted. Someone coughed softly, then silence again. Caprio leaned forward, elbows resting on the bench. How long has he been gone? Since I was 12. The boy's eyes glistened for a moment, then hardened again. Afghanistan. He didn't make it home. They gave us a folded flag and a speech about honor. That's all. The judge let out a slow breath. I'm sorry, son. Alex shook his head. Don't be. I hate that word, honor. Everyone says it like it fixes things. It doesn't fix the nightmares my mom still has. Or the letters we never opened because they smelled like sand and smoke. Caprio didn't interrupt. He knew that when someone finally speaks from that deep place, you don't fill the silence. You hold it. After a moment, the judge said quietly, and since then, every rule feels like a reminder of what you lost. Alex looked up, surprised. Maybe. Yeah. Like everyone expects me to be like him. Strong, brave, perfect. I can't be that. I don't want to be that. Caprio nodded slowly. You don't have to be him, but you can still carry what mattered to him. What do you know about what mattered to him? The boy snapped. The judge paused, then spoke softly. I know he didn't serve so you could hate the world that's still trying to love you. That landed like a quiet blow. Alex froze, not angry this time, just disarmed. Caprio reached for a photograph on his desk, an old black and white picture in a frame, edges worn smooth. A young soldier, barely older than Alex, stood in uniform beside a dusty jeep. I had a brother who didn't come home, Caprio said. Korea. I was your age when they told my mother. I remember the sound of her dropping a plate in the sink. That sound never left the house. The courtroom had gone utterly still. So when I see a boy speeding through a school zone, Caprio continued, I don't see a criminal. I see a kid outrunning ghosts. But ghosts don't fade when you run. They follow slower, until they catch you. Alex's breathing hitched. He tried to speak, but couldn't. Tell me something, the judge said gently. When you look in the mirror, do you see your father's face? Sometimes, Alex whispered. Then honor him differently, Caprio said. Don't break things because you miss him. Build something because you remember him. Alex stared at the floor, the tension in his shoulders unraveling. For the first time, he didn't look like a rebel. He looked like a son trying to figure out how to exist without a map. Caprio leaned back, voice quiet but steady. I think that's enough for today. We'll reconvene tomorrow morning. The gavel never struck. It didn't need to. The silence itself was judgment and mercy. For a long moment, Judge Caprio said nothing. The courtroom had fallen into a silence so deep that even the creak of the wooden benches felt intrusive. Somewhere in the back, a bottle cap clicked open, the only sound in a room full of people holding their breath. Finally, Caprio spoke. His tone wasn't judicial anymore. It was human. Alex, your father sounds like he was a good man. Alex's shoulders stiffened. He was a hero, he said, the words coming out sharp, defensive. But I hate when people say that. Because I'm not him. I'm not a hero. He stopped, eyes darting away. I'm just tired of everyone pretending I should be. Caprio nodded slightly, as if he'd expected that answer. And that's why you hate anyone who reminds you of him. Teachers, police, me. Alex exhaled through his nose. Yeah, maybe. You sit there in that robe, and everyone listens like you're some kind of king. My dad would have hated that. You'd probably tell him what to do, too. There were a few murmurs in the gallery. Someone whispered, "Oh, no." The clerk froze mid-note. But Caprio didn't bristle. Instead, he rose slowly, reached toward a shelf behind the bench, and picked up a small wooden frame. He held it in both hands for a moment before turning it toward the boy. Inside was a faded photograph, a much younger Frank Caprio, in uniform, standing on a sun-bleached tarmac beside other soldiers. His eyes in the picture were the same, calm, steady, almost defiant. I did serve, the judge said quietly. Army. Long before I ever wore this robe. My son served too. Different war, different time. And every night he was deployed, I prayed I'd never get the knock you and your mother got. The sound that followed wasn't applause or words. It was silence with weight, like air thickening in the room. Alex stared at the photograph, his expression uncertain. The arrogance that had fueled him for half the morning seemed to falter. I didn't know, he murmured. Of course you didn't, Caprio said. You didn't ask. Because asking means caring, and caring means risking that it might hurt again. Alex swallowed hard. You don't get it. Oh, I do, Caprio replied softly. Grief makes you angry at the world for continuing. You think it's easier to push everything away before it leaves you again. That's why you drive too fast. Why you talk like you can't be touched. Alex's hands, folded on the table, tightened until his knuckles whitened. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Caprio set the photograph down carefully, like something sacred. You don't have to be your father, son. But you have to decide what kind of man you want to be when you stop running from his shadow. For the first time since the hearing began, Alex's voice wavered. And what if I don't know who that is yet? Then that's your first honest answer today. The judge stepped away from the bench and came closer, his steps unhurried. When he spoke again, his voice was lower, almost fatherly. You think strength means never breaking. Your father knew better. Real strength is keeping your heart open when the world keeps giving you reasons to close it. Alex looked up, blinking hard. The sharp edge in his eyes was gone, replaced by something rawer, confusion, pain, maybe the beginning of trust. Everyone keeps telling me to move on, he said. But they don't understand. It's not that I can't. It's that I don't want to forget him. Caprio nodded once, understanding written plainly on his face. You don't move on, Alex. You move forward, with him. The difference is everything. The boy let out a shaky breath. You talk like you know what that's like. The judge smiled faintly. I do. You think I put on this robe because I liked rules? No. I did it because once, I lost someone who taught me what rules can't. That fairness isn't about punishment. It's about remembering what people are capable of when someone believes in them. The clock on the wall ticked softly. Caprio turned the photo so it faced himself again, brushing a thumb across the glass. Your father fought for a world where people like me could sit in rooms like this and listen. So let me do him justice by listening to you. Alex's head dropped into his hands for a moment, not crying, just trying to breathe through the storm that had suddenly broken open inside him. Caprio waited, patient. Then, quietly, "You said you hate when people call your father a hero. I understand, but I think he was. Not because he fought, but because he left behind someone still fighting to find meaning in what he did. That's you." Alex looked up again, this time, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't deserve that." "Maybe not yet," Caprio said gently. "But you will." The boy gave a small, uncertain nod. The walls of defiance that had towered all morning were gone, replaced by a silence that felt almost holy. "Tomorrow," Caprio said, his tone steady again, "we'll talk about what comes next. For now, go home to your mother. Let her see your face, not the mask you wear when you're angry, but the boy she's been waiting for." Alex hesitated. "Why are you being nice to me?" "Because someone once was nice to me when I didn't deserve it," Caprio said, "and it changed everything." He turned back toward the bench, voice firm but warm. "Court is adjourned until morning." The gavel struck, one clean sound that echoed through the room like a promise. The next morning, the courtroom was quieter than usual. No whispers, no rustle of papers, only the sound of the clock counting down seconds. Alex was already there, sitting alone in the front row. His hoodie was gone. He wore a plain shirt, clean but wrinkled, as if he'd ironed it himself that morning. Judge Caprio entered, nodded briefly, and took his seat. "You came early," he said. Alex gave a half-smile. "Didn't want to be late." Again. The faintest trace of amusement flickered in the judge's eyes. "Progress already." He gestured to the clerk. "Let's begin." The boy's file was open on the bench, but Caprio didn't look at it. "Alex," he said, "you broke the law. That's not in question. But I've been thinking about something more serious, what you broke in the people who care about you." Alex straightened, uneasy. "Your mother pays every fine," Caprio continued. "She shields you from the consequences, not because she's weak, but because she believes one day you'll see what she sees, a boy worth saving." The words hung in the air, heavy and kind at once. "She just doesn't want me to end up like my dad," Alex said quietly. "She's scared." "No," Caprio corrected. "She's grieving. Fear fades. Grief lingers. When you lost your father, she lost her anchor, and now she's trying to hold both your world and hers together. That's not fear, son. That's love working overtime." Alex looked down. "I thought she was just pushing me." "She pushes because she remembers what standing still costs," the judge said. "When a parent loses someone, they start measuring time differently, in risks, not minutes. Every time you speed, she relives the call she prayed she'd never get again." The boy's hands tightened in his lap. He whispered, "I didn't know. Now you do," Caprio said softly. He reached for another document, scanned it, and paused. "There's something else here. That earlier fine, the one you didn't pay, it was cleared." Alex frowned. "My mom said she couldn't afford it." "She didn't pay it," Caprio said. "Your school did." The room reacted, a ripple of murmurs. The judge read from the note attached to the file. "From Ms. Langley, your homeroom teacher. This student isn't disrespectful. He's hurting. He doesn't know how to ask for help." Alex froze. "She paid it." "She did," Caprio said. "And she didn't want credit for it. She only wrote, 'He deserves one more chance to believe adults can care without judging.'" The boy's mouth opened, then closed again. His voice cracked. "She's always on my case. I thought she hated me." "Maybe she just refused to give up on you," Caprio said. "That's what caring looks like. It's not always gentle. Sometimes it sounds like frustration. But it's still love, Alex. From her, from your mother, even from a judge you tried to insult." The faintest smile ghosted across Alex's face. "You're really not letting that go, huh?" Caprio chuckled softly. "Not yet, but I think you're starting to understand why." The tension in the room shifted, no longer sharp, but fragile. The people watching leaned in, not from curiosity, but from a quiet hope that something good might come of this. Caprio leaned forward. "The law says I can fine you. I can suspend your license, put points on your record, but none of that will reach what's broken. So here's what I'm going to do instead." He paused, letting the silence do its work. You'll go home today and talk to your mother. You'll tell her the truth, not the version that hides behind anger. And tomorrow, you'll report to your school. Ms. Langley runs an after-hours program for students who need extra help. You'll assist her for 1 week. Alex blinked. As punishment. As a beginning, the judge said, "You want to prove you're not your father? Start by protecting someone instead of hurting them." The boy nodded slowly. "All right." Caprio smiled faintly. "Good. Because redemption isn't given in this room. It's earned outside of it." He closed the file, the sound of the paper crisp against the quiet. "Court is adjourned," he said, tapping the gavel once. Not as an ending, but as permission to start over. A few weeks later, the courtroom looked the same. Same benches, same lights spilling through the windows, but something in the air felt lighter. Judge Caprio sat reviewing files when the clerk whispered, "There's someone asking to see you." He looked up. At the door stood Alex, a little taller somehow, cleaner cut, wearing the same nervous half-smile he'd tried to hide before. "You again," Caprio said, leaning back. "Did you miss the place?" Alex chuckled softly. "Actually, yeah. I came to say thanks." The judge gestured for him to approach. "So, how did our agreement go?" The boy took a breath. "I worked with Ms. Langley's group. Helped younger kids with homework. At first, they wouldn't even look at me. Then one of them asked if I was in trouble. And what did you tell him?" "I said I used to be." Alex smiled faintly. "But I'm learning how not to be." Caprio nodded, hands folded. "That's a good answer. Sounds like something your father would have said." The boy hesitated, then pulled something from his pocket, a small dog tag on a chain. He placed it on the desk. "This was his. I used to wear it when I was mad. Now I think I should stop carrying it like a weapon." The judge's eyes softened. "You sure?" "Yeah. I think he'd want me to earn it, not hide behind it." Caprio picked up the tag, turning it between his fingers. "You know, the army has a saying. You serve until the mission is complete. Maybe this was your mission, to learn how to live without losing who you came from." Alex's voice lowered. "I thought you were just another old guy with rules. Turns out, you're kind of right." "That might be the first time anyone said that to me this month," Caprio said with a grin. Then, quieter, "So, what's next for you?" "I'm applying to the youth volunteer program downtown. Maybe teach some kids to drive, the right way this time." The judge laughed, a warm, genuine sound. "Now that's redemption I can get behind." Alex turned to leave, then paused. "Judge." "Yes, son." The boy's smile widened. "You were wrong about one thing." "Oh." "You said I wasn't my father. But maybe I am, just in a different way." Caprio looked at him for a long moment. "Then I think your father would be proud." As the door closed behind Alex, the judge sat still for a moment, the dog tag resting on the bench beside his papers. He whispered, almost to himself, "Sometimes justice isn't about punishment. It's about helping someone remember who they are." The sound of the clock ticked softly in the background, steady, patient, like time giving a second chance.